to another lawn clippings video by Lawn Fawn. Today we're going to be making this fun card and we're going to be using ornate ornaments and some gorgeous May Arts ribbon. I just love this ribbon. It is absolutely beautiful and just so much fun to use. So the first thing we're going to do is stamp this longer ornament in some Versamark ink. Versamark ink is a really sticky ink that is really good for heat embossing because that sticky ink holds on to the embossing powder so that you can melt it with the heat gun and get a beautiful shiny image. So that's what we're going to be doing, and you can see that the top of the ornament there is a little bit open. So I'm going to be using this Versamarker, and what the Versamarker is, it's just a marker that has that Versamark ink from the ink pad in the marker. So you can fill in areas that either maybe you missed or like this where I wanted to fill in an open area to make sure it got heat embossing powder on it too. I just love that pen. So right now I'm going to add the heat embossing powder and you're going to see how it sticks to that open part, the top part of the ornament too. And I love putting my heat embossing powders in these little Tupperwares because it's just a really great way to, it's really easy to put it on with a spoon, but it's also, you don't have to funnel it back into the little cup and it's less messy. So on my most used embossing powders like silver and white and black, I like to put them inside those little Tupperwares. So right now I'm using my heat embossing gun, and I like to make sure I keep that heat embossing gun moving a lot because I've actually burned quite a few papers with it. So you want to make sure it keeps moving, and you want to heat the paper from the front and the back because that helps the paper from warping too much. So right now we're going to color this ornament with Distress inks. I'm using 3 different shades of red and one of these little fingertip sponge dauber things. But you could use a makeup sponge or any other sponge you might have, or a foam ink blending tool. Any kind of way to put this nice Distress ink on will be wonderful, and any way you do it will look great. I liked using the 3 colors to kind of give it some dimension, but I think it would look just as great with 1 color too. So right now I'm going to do some spray mist, and I'm going to use this Studio Calico Shine Mist, and I like to put it in a box so that I can spray the mist without worrying about it getting everywhere. So it's a really great way to do it. And you're going to see that I'm going to spray that ornament pretty heavily because I really want it to be nice and shiny, but I didn't really want those ink pool ups you can kind of see there on this particular card. So I'm just using a little rag here to just kind of soak up some of that mist but still keep the shine. I'm also making sure that my red ink is off of my silver embossing powder. It'll kind of just come off really easily with a little rag or baby wipe. So I cut that ornament out, and now I'm going to be using these fun pattern papers to create the card. So the first thing I'm going to do is just add this pattern paper here to the front card panel. And then I cut out another panel of pattern paper, which I didn't have a lot of. So I cut out the panel a little bit wider than I thought I needed so that I could kind of trim it down as I went to make sure I got the perfect size. Because if I went too small, then I wouldn't be able to make it bigger, and I didn't have enough paper to help me out there. So I decided to do it this way, and this is a really good way if you have a limited amount of your pattern paper to kind of test things out. Just trim off a little bit at a time until it looks that perfect amount that you would like for the card. So right now, I'm going to grab some of that gorgeous May Arts ribbon, this beautiful pleated ribbon, and I'm going to actually use this as kind of a little border backing to the paper. Instead of using another pattern paper, we're going to use ribbon, and this adds a lot of texture and it just looks so beautiful for the holidays, and it looks really beautiful for all year round too. So I'm just trimming off that ribbon there, and then I'm actually going to cut the ribbon right down the center because I don't want that much of it peeking out. So I wanted to kind of save that ribbon for another project because it's so pretty, and I'm just cutting it in half to kind of conserve on my ribbon here since only a little bit will show. So the way I'm going to adhere this ribbon down is I'm going to actually just add some tape runner adhesive to the back of this panel, and then we're going to lay that ribbon down and the adhesive will pick it up when we put the paper to it. So that ribbon there, you're going to see is kind of curved a little bit. Since I cut it in half, it kind of lost its stability. So I'm just using the little grid mark lines on my mat here to make sure that I line it up perfectly. So if you have any ribbons that might be a little bent maybe from how you store them, this is a really great way to make sure they line up straight. Just use any kind of grid, line it up that way, and then just stick the paper with adhesive right on top and it'll pick that ribbon right up. I'm just trimming off the edges there to make sure I had kind of the perfect length. I wanted to make sure I didn't cut them too short, so I left a little edge on them. And then right there, I'm just trying to see exactly where I should place my ornament. And I'm going to be using some other beautiful May Arts ribbon, this really gorgeous kind of olivey green color, which matches my pattern paper and is really great for Christmas. And so I just kind of decided on my height for the ornament, and now I'm stamping that little ornament hook there. We stamped it in Versamark, and we're going to heat emboss it again. And I probably should have done the heat embossing before I added the ribbon, but the nice thing about using this spoon is now I can just kind of put the heat embossing powder exactly where I need it and make sure it doesn't get into any of the grooves in my ribbon there. So we're just adding that embossing powder on, and then we're going to heat it, and we're going to heat it from the front and the back to make sure it doesn't work too much, especially because this is the main panel on the card too. So just heating it there, and then now we can start working on putting the ribbon in. And how I'm doing that is I'm just using an X-Acto knife to cut a little opening there to slide the ribbon through. And you can kind of change the size of your opening depending on what size of ribbon that you're using. So I'm just going to thread that ribbon right through and right around. And what I'm going to do to hold that ribbon down is I'm actually just going to add adhesive to the back of the card. That way no adhesive will show on the front, and it will really look like the ribbon is hanging right off the ornament. So you're going to see there how there's just some adhesive right there. And I'm just going to make sure that this ribbon is straight on the card, that it really looks like it's hanging the ornament. And then the adhesive on the back is going to hold it in place, and it's going to look like you tied that ribbon around the whole card. And we're actually going to add a bow onto this later. And the reason I didn't do the bow on the whole thing is I'm not the best bow tire. And you're going to see that now because I'm going to do it in fast motion. You'll see how long it took me to tie this ribbon. So I thought it'd be easier to tie the bow separately. And if you adhere it on top that way, it actually looks like you tied it all together in one big ribbon. So right now I'm just adding some little ribbon flags on the end of this ribbon. I'm just folding the ribbon in half and then cutting it with my scissors at an angle. And it gives you those cute little flags at the end, which just look adorable on ribbon. And for some reason it just looks really Christmassy to me. It looks like it would be really cute on top of this ornament. And as you can see there, when we place the ribbon, it really does look like we tied it all in one ribbon. But it kind of, if you're a bow tying novice like me, that'll kind of help to do it in two parts. So I just added some foam adhesive to my ornament, and now I'm going to go ahead and use a glue dot to glue down that beautiful ribbon. And the glue dot's really easy, and it works and it holds the ribbon, so I really like using those. So you can see now that my little flags are kind of all over the place, so I'm actually going to use some glue dots to hold those down too. And the great thing about using this is when you put it in the mail, you'll know when it gets to the recipient that the flags are going to be kind of exactly where you intended them if you use the glue dots, so I really like that way. So now the next thing I'm doing is just I added some foam adhesive to the panel, and we're just adhering that right down on the card. The foam adhesive helps because the ribbon's kind of bulky, so if you just use normal tape runner, it would look kind of funny. So the foam adhesive is a good thing when you have that big bulky ribbon on there. So now we're stamping out this Merry Christmas sentiment from the Ornate Ornament set, and we're using Versamark again, and we're doing silver embossing again because it kind of ties it all in together. You'll see that it doesn't look like the sentiment doesn't stand out that much in the video, but in person, because the silver embossing powder is so shiny, you can really see it. If you wanted it to stand out more, you could maybe use a black embossing powder, and that would look really pretty also. Or maybe even a gray. So right here I'm just going ahead and putting my panel down with that same foam adhesive I used for the larger panel so that they all kind of look like one thing and they're all at the same height. And then the next thing I'm doing is just looking at these really cute Hero Arts gems. I thought about adding some, but then I thought, you know what, there's a lot of stuff on this card and I'm just going to leave it alone. So right there you can see all of the beautiful shine on this card and how beautiful that ribbon looks. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye!